start again. So have you ever thought about leaving Earth and what Earth means? And humans have been orbiting in the space station, and so wondering about what their physiology is from like a Chinese medicine perspective. For example, if the yin-wei cycle starts with each sunrise and each sunset, one sunrise and one sunset, as we're told in the Beijing, in the space station they have 16 sunrises and sunsets. So does it mean then their Qi is moving 16 times faster than us here on Earth? So just questions like that got me curious about this whole idea. NASA and SpaceX are planning to send humans to colonize Mars in 2024. So that's 6 years from now. That's like really fast, right? Some people's been in school longer than that. So, so now is the time to start asking those questions. When I start writing this report, Heiner encouraged me to be bold and to think big. So to think big, I was thinking about in terms of health and Chinese medicine. If we are really going to space and there's still so many challenges that we've not yet solved, do we dare to think about going not just to survive, but actually to thrive? And to thrive, I mean to be able to have the balance of mind, body, and spirit, to be able to have the alertness and the consciousness to create and to grow in community, to have what we're having here, and not just go and survive. So my goal is if we're going to space, we need to thrive. But in order to thrive, we need both multivalent as well as bivalent kind of medicine. Bivalent would be more biomedicine, so like Eli Lilly and all the pharmaceutical companies that are currently already investing millions of dollars in the International Space Station for all kinds of space-related technologies. What about Chinese medicine? What kind of research can we contribute from the multivalent perspective, so that we have both multivalent and bivalent kind of science in order to reach our goal of having us thrive in the solar system. So that's the basis of my report. My training is in the multivalent science, so that's where I'm going to come from. So chapter 11 of Huang Di Neijing Ling Shu. The main thing about multivalent science Chinese medicine is that it's microcosm, macrocosm. And so this is the macrocosmic framework of Chinese medicine. And you can see that there are lots of symbols on it. It's symbol science. And the thing to note is that as I wrote this report, I realized that for us, we're so schooled in it, and these symbols mean so much because we're using it in clinic every day and seeing it in our lives. But for a lot of people, when you say the word symbol, people think metaphors. They think that it's just for descriptive purposes. But I'm trying to say that for Chinese medicine in space, this is not the case, even though I'm coming from a symbol science perspective. Because all of these symbols are actually statement of resonances. They are giving us information, and that's what symbol science is. It's coded information in a single signifier in nature, and that's the information that they're trying to transmit to us. And so to bring that to space would be interesting to look at, how these symbols are. So I've kind of put my report into 3 sections: heaven, earth, and humanity. And so in the heaven realm, in my report, I went more detailed into the each organ networks about what heaven means. So heaven is prenatal, so it questions our motivation, the why of going to space. Earth, in the earth realm, it looks at the postnatal. So what are the postnatal essences? What is it? What is Earth? What is it that sustains physical life? And if we know what it is, can we find it again in another planet? And then the humanity realm is, to me, is the most exciting because it's the how, right? We have the why, the what, and then the how. So the how is, it's where I feel that the human will and choices are. It's where the story of this journey to space is not yet written, and that's why it's super relevant today. Okay? So going to heaven, our journey to the stars. In 2500 BC, the Egyptians already built their pyramids, in alignment with the Orion constellation. Today, after studying 150,000 stars with the most powerful telescopes that we have, astrophysicists as well as astronomers are telling us that we are actually made of stardust. That's our same chemical composition as what stars are. So this whole idea of going back to the stars, of being prenatal, is something that is ancient and very universal. It's not just the last 50 years. And one of the organs in the heaven realm is the heart. And in chapter 8 of the Neijing, it tells that when each organ official is given a role, each organ is given an official role in the court system. And so the heart is given the role of emperor, Jinzu. And so Jinzu, if you break down the word, Jin means emperor and Zu means lord. Jin, again, you can break it down to yin and ko. And ko means mouth, and yin is like a government official. So Jin, you can express it as a young way of expressing leadership. Whereas it's an outward expression force, whereas Zhu is like a lamp over a flame. So it's an inward point of focus. So it's an inward drawing force of leadership. So as everything Chinese is a yin-yang pair, and both of these yin-yang expression of leadership have to be present in order for the heart to be able to fulfill its mandate of unity and leadership. One interesting thing that we can observe is called the overview effect in space. So like astronauts that have gone to space, some of them experience this phenomenon known as the overview effect, which I attribute it to being of the heart, because they actually get a sense, as a state of mental clarity, where there's a perception shift, and they start seeing our blue globe in the backdrop of space, and they realize that, oh, we're actually all in this together. But Mr. Fuller, the 20th century American inventor and visionary, called it spaceship Earth, right? We're really in a spaceship, and we are in space. We talk about going to space, but we are in space. So we need to, in order to going back to the prenatal realm allows us to have a perception shift. And the sense of no boundaries, because astronauts from space do not see natural boundaries. They see it as one thing. And so if more of us can go to space and have this experience of actually, we can know a concept, but viscerally experiencing the concept changes our consciousness of humanity as a whole. Another interesting thing to look at is the kidney organ network. Again, prenatal, kidney stores the prenatal gene. Recently, we have the twin study from NASA where Mark and Kelly actually go to space and they offered genetic information. One of the brothers stayed in space for a year, and then the other brother stayed on Earth. And then they studied their genes and realized that there's been a lot of genetic changes constantly happening with the brother that went to space. And so, of course, there are geneticists like Dr. Mason. He's kind of have this 500-year plan to rewrite and edit genomes to make the perfect astronaut, so that you can be, you don't have to suffer from cosmic radiation and things like that, or to engineer the genes of these astronauts so that they can live better, or they can be more agreeable and things like that. So doing genetic modification from that bivalent perspective, of course, would have other side effects, where there have been research that's been found that, when you engineer a gene like that, you can actually cause schizophrenia and other kinds of unintended consequences. So I was just thinking, what can we contribute from a multivalent science perspective? And so I was thinking that there is like what David was talking earlier about the DNA and how it relates to our hexagram, our I Ching. And so I did some search on that, and there's actually this field of study called genealogic, where they're actually mapping the 64 hexagrams to the genetic code that we have. And what are the hexagrams that we have in the prenatal realm? We have hexagram 44, 32, 12, and 20. So maybe, maybe coming from a multivalent map, we could look at what those genes are mapped to and look at some kind of solutions from there. I don't know, but that's just one idea of further research of how to combine multivalent and bivalent science. So going back to heaven, it's about being prenatal. It's about going back to our prenatal essence. It's about awakening and enlightenment. I didn't talk about the bladder channel, which is obviously very much about awakening and enlightenment to the transcendental people. But it's also about going back to not being as unconscious sleepers, but going back guided by our unity consciousness of the heart, and to have this conscious intent to want to go out into space, but doing it in a way that makes humanity grow. Okay, now going to the earth section. What does earth mean? So looking at the words in earth in Chinese medicine, earth can be known as Tu or Ti. Tu usually means soil, and Ti usually is from Tian and Di, heaven and earth. When I looked at Old English, the word earth also came from Middle Earth, so I actually saw the link between Middle Earth, Middle Kingdom. And so like Zhongguo today, China, is still Middle Kingdom. So there is something that's very much linked with the idea of center, being in the center, in the middle, and earth. And so when we think about center, right, in space, an astronaut would not even know where up or down is. So if we don't even know where up or down is, like how do we even find the center? So these things get pretty confusing. But Mr. Fuller said that we should stop looking at the whole idea of up or down. We should look at the idea of in and out, right? Because when a skydiver falls down down Earth, he's actually falling into Earth, and then you're actually expanding out. So if we do that with our bodies, right? Like if we go expand and contract, then the center will be where it's the point at which we expand and contract. And there may be more than one centers as well. But in Chinese medicine, our center, the earth, is also the abdomen. So this again points to the center and earth. And then in 黄帝内经书文 chapter 5, it says 中央生身，生吃湿肾土. So again, center is not just a location, but a quality. And in the classical text, it links center to deathless. So what I think is that a lot of the space pathologies that we have, we can actually go back to what's found in the earth section. So like muscle atrophy and bone density loss. 20% of bone loss in 5 to 11 days upon entering microgravity. There's mainly on the anti-gravity muscle and reduced endurance of our muscle. And then in terms of bone density loss, again 12% during 4.45 months in space, and 70% of calcium loss within days. And so our bones not only give us structure, but they also hold stores of calcium. So hypercalcemia is a big issue in space as well, having all the calcium in our system instead of being bones. So again, from a Chinese medicine perspective, first we look at it as an imbalance of the Tai-yin damp earth and the Yang-Ming dry metal. When we look at the earth organs, spleen and stomach, lung, spleen, Tai-yin, stomach, large intestine, Yang-Ming, there's a lot of stories, a lot of symbols about balance, especially with the lungs. It's important to be able to balance the dry metal and the damp earth. And so the key is balance. And one thing that we can look at is our earth atmosphere. The radiation from the sun is like the Yang-Ming, it's like so strong. But our earth atmosphere, the Tai-Yin, it's But I would say Tai-yin Yang-Ming is the balance of those two, giving us both the greenhouse effect as well as protecting us from over radiation exposure. So I looked at Wei-Lun because of muscle atrophy, chapter 44 of Quantity Aging. And it's interesting because from a Western medicine perspective, they think that it's just atrophy from the muscle. But from chapter 44, it actually says that there can be Wei in all the different 5 lung organs. And so this is the one on the lung organ network, and it talks about how the lung is attacked by heat pathogens and the body fluids become exhausted, and this causes lame cripple Wei. And so this is what I want to show. I hope it comes through. No, it doesn't.
Maybe if you switch it to mirror.
What's that? It's pretty much a video clip of this astronaut who actually just came back from space, like within the first 6 hours or so. And when you look at the way he was in the medical tent, and if you look at the way he was standing and walking, it's so clear. It's like his lame, his crippled way. He was not able to stand, and then even within 22 hours after landing, he was relearning how to walk like a baby. And so, we think that space stuff is all very much biomedical, all at the bivalent extreme, but just looking at this from this perspective as a Chinese medicine practitioner, and we have this text in the Neijing, can we try something? Probably. Will it work? We need results and data to prove that. But we can contribute. So again, Huangdi asked Qi Guo, how do we treat? And Qi Guo says, well, firstly consider the Yang-Ming. And in the Yang-Ming, because the Yang-Ming moistures the ancestral tendon, the Zhongjing, and then it governs bundling the bones. And also go and tonify the yin spring points that promotes qi to the su spring points. Very, very, very direct and not vague. So Shufu, letter 62, it's interesting seeing how it correlates to the greatest amount of bone loss in an astronaut and the calcaneus. Maybe it's a good point to needle. And then also in terms of the points, how I interpreted that chapter, that point is to go from yin spring. I chose the lung, the Tai-yin channels and the Yang-Ming channels, and to go from yin spring to shoestring points to needle. It's possible also my kind of differentiation would be more like lung heat, probably because it's more acute and because we are leaving the Earth atmosphere. So in terms of the Tai-Yin Yang-Ming balance, I was thinking that probably it's more on the Yang-Ming side. And then in terms of herbs, again, Maimendong, and some other herbal formulas as well, which I think in China for the astronaut programs they are using right now. Okay, humanity section. How will the story be written? So in the humanity section, we will talk about the organ networks in the humanity section, and one of the organ networks, the gallbladder. And one thing that's interesting is that the gallbladder types are the explorers, right? They're the guys who actually take the first step, because Dan, gallbladder, is synonymous, is etymologically linked with the word Chan, the amphibian. And so the amphibian is the first step that we took from being water-based to land-based creatures. So I wonder what we're going to be when we become space-based creatures, right? And so there's that first step of thinking. And then also the gallbladder is the 中正之端, being directly opposite the heart organ network. So to be able to take the first step and have the courage to take the first step is about being aligned, being centered and aligned to the mandate of the heart, which is unity. And and then 忠正直观, and where decisiveness comes from. Also, there is the heart pericardium, which teaches us about being surrendered. And also very importantly, the triple woman, which talks about the 10th month, and it's the month of the coffin, which is a month of death, when everything looks dead on the surface. But from biomedical perspective, bivalent science, death is annihilation. Death, that's it. But from a multivalent Chinese medicine perspective, death is not annihilation, but transition. And there is a pivot. And so the humanities section teaches us that we need to be able to pivot, during like the turning point from when be willing to surrender to death, but also know that death is not the end, and it's life, death, life. And so that's why we have hexagram 24 for food. And here I brought up some issues about how death is a shared human experience and how astronauts also die. But then it's not just death that's coming back to, and to have that attitude when you go into space. So to demonstrate how we can use a piece of space equipment we use CCM on a piece of space equipment. I decided to work on the spacesuit together with Dr. Cameron Smith. And the spacesuit is a piece of space technologies that help humans stay alive in space. It provides the right pressure, it provides water, oxygen for you to stay alive. In the spacesuit, there are 3 elements. The first element is the coolant layer. And this is the layer which is closest to the human body, which has tubings and everything, and where chilled fluids will be run through in order to keep it close to body temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius. The second layer is the bladder layer, which is also called the pressure garment. And what it's meant to do is to trick your body to believing that you are on the pressure of your body is at sea level. Because if you go into space and it's at 0 psi, your body will actually expand twice, and I think your fluids will start to boil. And then the last layer is the restraint garment, or the coverall layer, and this is meant to keep the bladder layer from ballooning up like a Michelin man, and it also gets really hard when it balloons up, and to give you mobility.
Go ahead, Michelle. I'm sorry, I was just trying to...
So what Cam is doing now is he's putting pressure into the suit to let the suit. So if the suit can go up to 4.5 psi, basically you can survive in space conditions. And then to have a coolant box, and Mary is breathing gas, right? Hi, Mary, can you copy? How are you feeling in the suit right now?
I got oxygen coming in.
So one other thing that we thought that we can do with the suit is it's an environment where we can enhance a lot more sensory wellness. So we can vent some essential oils into the suit to help with better performance. We can also put in some other sounds, because there's so much things going on when you're in the suit and you're listening to all these things which will affect your performance. And so there's gemstones in there, there are acupuncture points in there, there's anatomy trained lines in there which follows our meridian lines. And yeah, let's just make it a Chinese medicine spacesuit.